Is it possible for a plane to pay the price of a mistake made 20 years ago up in the sky? On May 25, 2002, China Airlines Flight 611 took off from Chiang Kai-shek Airport in Taiwan, heading to Hong Kong. However, just 20 minutes after takeoff, the plane broke apart in midair and crashed into the Taiwan Strait. This horrific accident, which claimed the lives of 225 people, went down as the deadliest air disaster in Taiwan's history. So how did this massive Boeing 747 break apart in the sky? The answer was hidden in a tail strike that happened 22 years earlier. This incident was strikingly similar to the Japan Airlines Flight 123 crash. The aircraft involved was a Boeing 747-200 with tail number B18255. This plane was the last passenger-carrying 747-200 model in the China Airlines fleet. It was delivered directly to China Airlines after rolling off the factory floor on August 2, 1979. And served exclusively with this airline throughout its career. Before the accident, the plane had logged over 64,800 flight hours and was powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney JT9D7 AW engines with a total passenger capacity of 355. Interestingly, this flight was actually the penultimate flight the aircraft would perform for China Airlines. After landing in Taiwan from Hong Kong, it was going to be sold to Orient Thai Airlines for only $1.45 million. However, this tragedy caused the sale to be canceled. Orient Thai had to purchase another 747 instead. Out of the 4 747 200-passenger aircraft China Airlines owned, 3 had previously been converted into cargo planes. After the crash, Taiwan's Civil Aviation Authority immediately grounded all these planes for technical inspections. The plane took off from Taipei at 15:08 local time. The destination was Hong Kong, about an hour away. There were 3 very experienced people in the cockpit: 51-year-old Captain Yi Ching Fang, 52-year-old First Officer Shi Ye Shang, and 54-year-old flight engineer Chao Sen Kuo. Each had tens of thousands of flight hours. At 15:16, the plane was cleared to climb to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. But when the clock hit 15:33, all communication with the plane was suddenly lost. Silence reigned in the sky. 2 Cathay Pacific planes in the same airspace received emergency signals from B18255, but it was already too late. All 206 passengers and 19 crew on board lost their lives. The real cause of the accident, a 22-year silent danger. The dramatic end of China Airlines Flight 611 was actually the last link in a chain that began 22 years earlier. In 1980, during landing at Hong Kong's Kai Tak Airport, the aircraft suffered a tail strike. Its tail scraped the runway. The tail section of the plane was seriously damaged in this event. The plane was immediately sent back to Taiwan. A temporary repair was made the next day. The permanent repair was carried out from May 23 to 26, 1980, by China Airlines' own maintenance team. However, this permanent repair was actually a time bomb, improper repair against instructions. According to Boeing's Structural Repair Manual, SRM, such damage should be repaired either by replacing the entire surface or by cutting out the damaged part and placing a reinforcing doubler plate over it. But China Airlines engineers did not follow these procedures. Instead of cutting out the damaged area, they placed a doubler plate directly over it. Moreover, the plate was designed smaller than required and failed to cover all the scratches. Some cracks remained exposed, and over the years, Pressure changes during every flight gradually enlarged these hidden cracks. The silent growth of the invisible danger. An airplane fuselage expands and contracts with the increase and decrease of cabin pressure during every flight. This stretching is known as a pressurization cycle, and structural components endure microscopic stress with each cycle. This aircraft had over 64,000 flight hours, meaning it had been subjected to these pressure cycles hundreds of thousands of times. This caused the cracks to propagate through the metal fuselage like a blade. And the cruel coincidence, the plane broke apart exactly on May 25, 22 years after the faulty repair was made. On the same date, moment of disintegration. At 35,000 feet, the crack in the fuselage finally opened. Rapid decompression began. The fuselage completely broke off at section 46, the area behind the main wings. The front section started to fall rapidly. At the same time, the fuse pins holding the engines broke, and all 4 engines detached from the wings. Despite their huge size, large-bodied aircraft like the Boeing 747 are vulnerable to such structural failures. Because such a break causes all flight control systems to be lost instantly. A similar tragedy, Japan Airlines Flight 123. Unfortunately, this was not the first similar accident. In 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, traveling from Tokyo to Osaka, also broke apart in mid-air after a tail strike and improper repair of the pressure bulkhead. Only 4 of the 524 people on board survived. In that accident, too, the doubler plate had not been installed according to Boeing's instructions. So the terrifying consequences of this type of negligence had been seen before. Striking detail, tar stain. China Airlines objected to some points in the official accident report. They claimed investigators could not find some critical parts. However, old photos from maintenance records revealed a dark-colored stain in the tail area. Initially, this stain was ignored, but it was later understood to be tar residue from when smoking was allowed on planes. Smoking was permitted on China Airlines flights until 1995. Had these stains been examined carefully, the cracks behind them might have been detected earlier. Unfortunately, this negligence cost dearly. Patient Sex Week and Pan of Beauty, scriptural storytelling. Among those who died were Taiwanese politician Yu Ji-cheng and 2 journalists. The majority of the 225 passengers were Taiwanese tourists traveling in groups organized by 4 different tour companies to China. After the crash, remains of 175 people were recovered. The first 82 bodies were found on the surface of the Taiwan Strait and were retrieved by fishing boats and military ships. The remaining bodies and aircraft parts were recovered from deep waters by specially chartered salvage vessels. Identifications were made through visual recognition, fingerprints, dental records, and DNA testing. Autopsies were performed on only 3 bodies belonging to the flight crew. Lost belongings, clothing, and body records were handed over to families. All data for each victim were cataloged in detail. Examinations revealed serious injuries such as head trauma, broken legs, and internal bleeding on most passengers. Most bodies were nearly intact with no signs of burning or explosion. This was the strongest evidence that the plane broke apart in mid. Traces. Radar records show the plane broke into 4 pieces at 35,000 feet. Some light objects inside, magazines, documents, suitcases, money, a blood-stained pillowcase were found in villages in Taiwan, 130 kilometers away from the crash site. The engines were intact. All 4 engines were recovered from the sea and confirmed to have had no faults before the crash. The plane was climbing to cruising altitude at the time of the accident. Search, rescue, and political repercussions. At 17:05, a Taiwanese military C-130 Hercules plane located the wreckage northeast of the Penghu Islands. Oil leaks were also observed at the same time. The first body was found at 18:10. No emergency call was made before the accident. Taiwan and China governments cooperated in the rare joint effort to collect wreckage and bodies. Taiwanese teams were allowed to conduct searches within Chinese territorial waters. China Airlines collected blood samples from relatives for DNA testing. After the incident, some families claimed the flight was unnecessary. Many passengers wanted to go to China, but had to fly via Hong Kong due to lack of direct flights. This tragedy ignited debates over direct flights between Taiwan and China, which were eventually established. The final investigation concluded that the root cause of this tragic accident was a faulty repair made 22 years earlier. On February 7, 1980, the same plane scraped its tail on the runway during landing at Hong Kong. Such incidents are called tail strikes. The plane was returned to Taiwan that day, temporarily repaired the next day, and permanently repaired by China Airlines teams between May 23-26, 1980. This is when the seeds of disaster were sown. According to Boeing's structural repair manual, such damage should be either fully replaced with new parts or the damaged section cut out and reinforced with a doubler plate. But China Airlines did not follow these rules. They placed a doubler plate directly on the damaged area, but it was smaller than required. Because it did not cover the entire damaged area, cracks extended beyond the plate. This caused hidden cracks inside to grow over time, weakening the metal with pressure cycles during flights. And exactly 22 years later, on May 25, 2002, the plane broke apart in midair. A sudden decompression occurred in the fuselage. The body split in two at section 46, located behind the main wing box. The front section fell abruptly. At the same time, all four engines detached from the wings. The breaking plane continued to disintegrate until it crashed into the sea. A similar disaster had happened before in Japan in 1985. Japan Airlines Flight 123 was also improperly repaired after a tail strike, causing the deaths of 520 people. Coincidentally, both planes were Boeing 747s and had the same repair error: faulty doubler installation. Claims and negligence. China Airlines made some objections to the report, claiming some critical parts explaining the accident were missing. But photos from maintenance records revealed a striking detail. The discoloration on the fuselage was actually tar stains from cigarette butts. Smoking was allowed on China Airlines flights until 1995. If those stains had been examined carefully, the cracks could have been detected earlier, and maybe this flight would never have happened. Today we talked about a very serious but important accident. If you liked the video, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel, okay? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. Please write which accidents you are curious about. See you in the next video. Take care.